Good morning, my lovely Year 7s. I hope you are doing well. I hope you had a lovely half term and managed to get some well-deserved rest. Today we are going to continue studying A Midsummer's Night's Dream. Before we get into it, can you please copy down the title, the date, and the learning objective? Pause the video and press play when you have those three things written down, please. Okay, if you're back, that means you are ready to complete our do now. Remember, you need to answer the questions in full sentences. That means that your answer makes sense without the question. So, for example, number 1, what does Demetrius tell Helena? You would write for your answer, Demetrius tells Helena, and then you would finish it off to complete the sentence. Pause the video and press play when you have these 5 questions answered in full sentences, please. Okay, if you're back, that means you are ready to make your purple pen corrections. Tick your answer if you got it right. Cross your answer if you got it wrong, but don't worry, just make sure that you write the correct answer that's on screen. So, Demetrius tells Helena he doesn't love her. Helena compares herself to a dog, particularly a spaniel. So if you wrote spaniel, that's also fine. Demetrius is frustrated by Helena as he has never spoken kindly to her, but she still follows him. Oberon is watching whilst invisible, and Puck is going to use the potion on Titania. Pause the video and make any purple pen corrections that you need to now before returning. Okay, if you're back, that means that you've done all your purple pen corrections. Before we read, I'm going to give you a summary. Now, Actune C2 is quite a big scene. It's very important. So it's important that you really understand the events that take place. So let's go through this summary. Let's take our time whilst we read it. So it starts with Oberon ordering Puck to look for a man who's dressed in Athenian clothing, who is being pursued by a lady, and to put some of the juice on his eyelids so that when he wakes he will fall in love with the lady. So Oberon in the previous scene was watching Demetrius and Helena and how horrible Demetrius was being, and he decided to take his revenge on Demetrius. So he's going to ask Puck, as well as squeezing the love potion into Titania's eyes, he also wants to squeeze it into Demetrius's eyes. And to help Puck find Demetrius, he says you need to look for a man that's dressed in Athenian clothing. So then they are watching from the side and Titania falls asleep by the stream. Oberon creeps up on her and squeezes the flower's juice onto her eyelids whilst chanting a spell. Oberon then leaves, and Lysander and Hermia wander into the glade, the forest. Remember, Lysander and Hermia are going to the aunt's house to get married. Lysander admits that he has forgotten the way to his aunt's house and says that they should get some sleep because they don't want to continue travelling in the dark. At this point, Puck enters, complaining that he cannot find an Athenian youth and pursuing lady, which means that he cannot find Demetrius and Helena. He is really relieved, though, when he finally happens upon the sleeping Lysander and Hermia, assuming that they are the Athenians of whom Oberon spoke. So, just because Lysander is wearing Athenian clothing, Puck mistakes him for Demetrius. And we know what that means. Helena pursues Demetrius through the glade. He insults her again and insists that she no longer follows him. So she sees the sleeping Lysander, wakes him up, and the potion takes effect. So because Puck got confused between Lysander and Demetrius, he squeezed the potion into Lysander's eyes. And now Helena has woken him up, and Lysander lays his eyes on Helena. He instantly falls in love with her. And Helena believes that Lysander is making fun of her, and she begins to grow angry. She leaves in a huff, and Lysander follows after her, obviously because he's now absolutely in love with her. Hermia soon wakes up, and she's absolutely shocked and confused to find that Lysander is gone. So again, there is a lot of chaos and confusion here, particularly because Puck squeezed the potion on the wrong person's eyes, and now Lysander is in love with Helena instead of Hermia. So today we are going to focus on finding quotations. In your assessments, you always get given a section of the text to write your assessment question to, and it's really important that you have the skill of finding quotes to support your ideas. So what I would like you to do is copy this table down. Make sure that you include all of the information that's on this side of the table. It's going to be important later. Pause the video and only return when you have this table copied down exactly as it appears on screen. Okay, if you're back, that means that you have this table copied down. What we're going to do now is we're going to read some different parts of Act 2, Scene 2. And your job is to find quotations that support these ideas. I'm going to tell you which idea or which event has taken place in which extract to help you choose your quotations. And at the end, we will correct them. So let's get reading. So remember that the black side is the original Shakespearean play and the red side is the modern translation, but we only use quotes from the black side. The red side is just there to help us understand. So this is where Oberon is squeezing the flower's juice onto Titania's eyelids. These bits in brackets here are stage directions. They are telling the audience, or at this point the reader, what is happening on stage. Oberon says, "What thou seest when thou dost wake, do it for thy true love take." Which means whatever you see first when you wake up, remember thou means you, think of it as your true love. He continues to say, "Love and languish for his sake, be it ounce or cat or bear, pard or boar with bristled hair, in thy eye that shall appear when thou wakest, it is thy dear." So Oberon says, whoever you wake up and look at, love him and yearn for him, which means like want him, even if he's a lynx, a cat, a bear, a leopard, or a wild boar. And he says, whatever's there when you wake up will be dear to you. So in thy eye that shall appear when thou wakest, it is thy dear. It is thy dear, dear to you. Then Oberon says, wake when some vile thing is near. Wake up when something nasty is nearby. Nasty and vile. It's quite cruel of Oberon, and it kind of links to what we were talking about when we compared Oberon as a leader to Theseus as a leader, and how Oberon is quite jealous and bitter and he likes to start chaos. Okay, so looking at your table, we have this event. Oberon chants a spell for her to wake up when there is something unpleasant before her. Have a look at this black side here. Which quote shows that Oberon wants Titania to wake up when there is something unpleasant before her? Pause the video and only return when you have chosen a quote from this side to fill in your table. Okay, so you should have a quote written down. Let's move on. So this is where Lysander and Hermia have stumbled in, and Hermia and Lysander are deciding that they want to sleep separately in different parts of the forest. Hermia, as an unmarried woman, doesn't want to be seen lying with a man. That would make her seem not very modest, not very polite and well behaved. This is the conversation between them. Lysander says, two bosoms interchained with an oath, so then two bosoms and a single troth. He says that our two bodies are linked together interchanged by the promises we've made to each other, so the oath. So there are 2 bodies, 2 bosoms, and 1 faithful vow, a single troth. He then says, then by your side no bedroom me deny, for lying so, Hermia, I do not lie. So he says, so let me sleep next to you. If I lie next to you, I won't lie to you. I'll be faithful and respect you. Hermia said, Lysander riddles very prettily. She says Lysander's got a way with words, and we know that because that's how Lysander won Hermia's heart, by reading poems and writing poems to her. Hermia says, now much beshrew my manners and my pride if Hermia meant to say Lysander lied. She says, I would certainly be rude and shameful if I had implied that you were a liar. So rude and shameful linked to her manners and her pride. She then says, but gentle friend, which is a term of endearment for someone that you care about. But gentle friend, for love and courtesy lie further off in human modesty. She says, but please, darling, sleep a little farther away so we can behave properly. Such separation as may well be said becomes a virtuous bachelor and a maid. She says it's only proper for a well-behaved bachelor and a well-behaved girl to be physically separated like this. So remember the beginning, before we started reading the play, we understood that men and women had different roles in society. And one of the roles that women had to stick to was being modest and not being kind of openly touchy or affectionate with any men. And Hermia wants to protect that by sleeping separately from Lysander. She says, so far be distant, and good night, sweet friend. Thy love never alter till thy sweet life end. She says, stay away for now, and good night, my sweet friend. I hope your love for me remains this strong for your entire life. So she's basically saying, you know, until death do us part, we will love each other until we die. Okay, so going back to our table, we have Hermia repeatedly asked Lysander to sleep further away from her. Pause the video and reread this black side of the text. Choose a quote and only come back when that is copied down into your table, please. Okay, so let's move on. Now we are looking at when Puck is a bit frustrated because he can't find Demetrius, but then he stumbles across Lysander and Hermia. This is what he says. He says, through the forest I have gone, but Athenian found I none, on whose eyes I might approve this flower's force in stirring love. He says, I've been through the entire forest, but I haven't found any Athenian man to use the flower on. And then he sees Lysander and Hermia. He says, night and silence, who is here? Weeds of Athens he doth wear. He goes, wait a second, who's this? He's wearing Athenian clothing. Weeds of Athens he doth wear. And this is where Puck gets confused. He thinks that Lysander is Demetrius and therefore uses the potion on him. Puck continues by saying, this is he, my master said, despise the Athenian maid. He said, this must be the guy who rejected the Athenian girl. Obviously, he's talking about Helena, but he doesn't know that that is in fact Hermia. Puck continues by saying, and hear the maiden sleeping sound on the dank and dirty ground. He said, and here's the girl sleeping soundly on the damp and dirty ground. So damp, meaning dank. Puck says, pretty soul, she durst not lie near this lack love, this kill courtesy. He says, she's such a pretty girl, she shouldn't lie near this rude and heartless man. And then he squeezes the flower juice on Lysander's eyelids. So, looking at our table, we have this event, Oberon. Oh, sorry, that's meant to say Puck, not Oberon. I think, hopefully that's right in your actual table. If it's not, just pause the video and change that so it says Puck instead. Okay, so it should say Puck now if it's a mistake on your table. So it says Puck thinks Lysander is Demetrius and uses the flower on him. So which quote from this section here shows that that Puck gets Lysander confused with Demetrius? Pause the video and only come back when you have a quote written into your table, please. Okay, if you're back, that means we're ready to carry on reading. So this section is after Lysander wakes up and Helena feels confused as to why she's not loved like Hermia is loved, and she kind of begins to compare herself to Hermia. It's quite sad, actually. Helena says, "Oh, I am out of breath in this fond chase. The more my prayer, the lesser is my grace." She says, "The more that I pray for love and pray for Demetrius to love me, the less I get out of it." She continues by saying, "Happy is Hermia, wheresoever she lies, for she hath blessed and attractive eyes. How come her eyes so bright, not with salt tears?" So she compares herself to Hermia and says Hermia is lucky wherever she is because she has beautiful eyes. How did her eyes get so bright? Definitely not from crying, which might hint that maybe Helena's been crying. Helena says, "If so, my eyes are often washed than hers. No, no, I am as ugly as a bear, for beasts that meet me run away from fear." She says, "If that's the case, tears wash my eyes more than hers." She says that I cry more than hers, so why are my eyes not as beautiful as hers? Helena says, "No, no, I'm as ugly as a bear, since animals that see me run away in terror. For beasts that meet me run away for fear." So she's saying that she is so ugly that animals run away from her. She continues to say, "Therefore no marvel though Demetrius do as a monster fly my presence thus." She says it's no surprise, no marvel, that Demetrius runs away from me as if I were a monster. Fly my presence, meaning running away. She finishes by saying, "What wicked and dissembling glass of mine made me compare with Hermia's fairer eyne?" She says, "What evil and deceitful mirror made me think I could rival Hermia's starry eyes?" She just realises that Demetrius will never love Helena the way that he loves Hermia because Helena looks nothing like Hermia. Okay, so going back to our table, Helena is sad because she thinks Hermia is far prettier than she is. Think about what Helena compares herself to. Look at this side here. Pause the video and write a quotation down in your table, please. Okay, so you should have a quote written down here. Let's move on. So this is the moment where Lysander wakes up and falls instantly in love with Helena. And this is when all the chaos really begins. Lysander wakes up and says, "And run through fire I will for thy sweet sake." Instantly, as soon as he wakes up, he said, "I'd even run through fire if you told me to," showing, the impact of the potion on Lysander. Lysander says, "Transparent Helena, nature shows art that through thy bosom makes me see thy heart." He says that she's radiant and she's beautiful and that she's feeling like nature has allowed him to see into her heart as if by magic. Lysander says, "Where is Demetrius? Oh, how fit a word is that vile name to perish on my sword." He asks, "Where is Demetrius?" and says that he would kill that name with my sword if he could. Obviously, because Helena loves Demetrius, Lysander remembers that Demetrius is now in competition with Demetrius and for Helena. Helena says, "Do not say so, Lysander, say not so." She says, "Don't say that, Lysander, don't say that." She's confused and she's concerned. Then she says, what thou he love your Helena, Lord, what though? Yet Hermia still loves you, then be content." She says, "Why do you care that he loves Hermia? What does it matter? Hermia still loves you, so be happy." So Helena is confused there. Helena thinks that Lysander is jealous of Demetrius because of Hermia, but she fails to realise that Lysander is actually jealous of Demetrius because Helena loves him. So Lysander wakes and falls in love with Helena. Pause the video now and choose a quote from the black section of the screen and write that into your table. Come back when you've got that done, please. Okay, and this is where Helena realizes that Lysander is pretending to be, well, she thinks that Lysander is pretending to be in love with her. She says, "Wherefore was I to this keen mockery born?" She says, "Why does everyone always make so much fun of me?" She says, "When at your hands did I deserve this scorn? What have I done to deserve this kind of treatment for you, this scorn? Is it not enough, young man, that I did never, nor never can, deserve a sweet look from Demetrius' eyes, but you must flout my insufficiency?" She says, "Is it not enough that I'll never be pretty enough to get a kind look from Demetrius? Do you have to harp on my inadequacy? But you flout my insufficiency?" She feels like Lysander is making fun of the fact that she isn't capable of being loved by Demetrius. She continues to say, "Good troth, you do me wrong, good sooth you do, in such disdainful manner me to woo." She says, "My God, it's wrong for you to woo me in such a cruel, disdainful way, but goodbye." So she's had enough, she's confused, she's hurt, so she decides to leave. She continues by saying, "Perforce I must confess I thought you lord of more true gentleness." She says that, "Oh my God, I thought you were a much kinder person than this, a true gentleness." She says, "Oh, that a lady of one man refused should of another therefore be abused." She said, "How awful that a lady who's been rejected by one man should therefore be treated horribly by another one." So Helena just feels awful. She knows Demetrius doesn't love her. She now thinks Lysander is making fun of her and pretending to be in love with her. So she's really frustrated and really angry. So looking at our table, where Helena believes Lysander is making fun of her and leaves, look at this black section here. Pause the video and come back when you have a quote written into your table, please. Okay, that means that you should have a completed quotation hunt, which means that your table should now be full of quotes. So let's make some purple pen corrections now. So you might have chosen some different quotes, some slightly different quotes. That's okay, but do make sure that these ones on the screen are written down if you haven't got those ones. So Oberon says, "Wake when some vile thing is near," which indicates that he wants Titania to fall in love with something unpleasant. Hermia repeatedly asked Lysander to sleep further away to protect her reputation. She said, "Lie further off in human modesty." Puck gets confused between Lysander and Demetrius and said, "Weeds of Athens he doth wear." Helena is sad because she thinks she's ugly in comparison to Hermia. "I am as ugly as a bear." Lysander wakes and falls in love with Helena. He instantly says, "Transparent Helena, nature shows art, that through thy bosom makes me see thy heart." Helena believes Lysander is making fun of her and leaves. "Wherefore was I to this keen mockery born?" Like I said, you may have chosen some slightly different quotes, and that's fine, but please do pause the video now and get any of these quotes down in purple pen if you haven't done so already. Okay, if you're back, that means you have these purple pen quotes written down and you are ready to submit your work. So when you send your email, you need to make sure that the subject of the email says English lesson, the number of the lesson. So for this one, lesson 2, and then the date of the lesson. This makes it very easy for me to see which work you have and haven't done. So please make sure you do that. Just a reminder of how you should submit your work on the screen now. Pause the video, submit your work. Once you've done that, you can exit out the video and move on to your next lesson. I look forward to seeing your excellent notes from today.